hit that like, sub to the channel if you're not a member, and hit those notifications too, and share this content too as well. All right, I ain't gonna lie, man. Uh, things are not looking good for the Dallas Mavericks. Uh, the Dallas Mavericks, man. First and foremost, have been depleted because of injuries, personnel changes, culture change, everything. New bodies that are on the roster and everything. But here's the thing, man. That trade that happened uh, in the middle of the night last season, okay, was not only the most surprising to a lot of people, but also a lot of people question what truly happened. Now, it's a lot of things that's a lot of things that's been circulating um, about Nico Harrison, him being on the hot seat, and him being criticized about what went down, with the Luka trade and everything. And I'm not gonna lie to you, I was one of them. I did criticize Nico Harrison. However, we got to ask ourselves a question, and we really do need to go back and really go take a really deep dive into look at things, okay, uh, as to whether or not Nico Harrison is really a scam artist trying to get over on the fans and the Dallas Mavericks, fan base, or is he being used as a scapegoat? Okay, here's the thing, man. Here's what I look at, right? Now, Nico Harrison did come out, man, and he did say that he wanted to focus on defense. Okay, um, he wanted to compete. Give every opportunity to compete for a championship, in which the Mavericks had already done with Jason Kidd. They made the finals. They made the Western Conference Finals. They just did not get over the hump. Okay, and on top of that, they just wanted an overall culture change. Okay, and that was what was coming out of not only Nico Harrison's mouth, but the owner, Patrick Dumont. Okay, now listen, Nico Harrison, to me, I think is being used as a scapegoat. Okay, now has he done everything perfect in the past? No, he has not. However, Patrick Dumont, let's not forget, okay, this is a guy that was heavily critical of Luka Doncic, okay? He was the one that was calling Luka lazy, needed to lose weight. He was very critical, shortly before him uh, leaving Dallas. As a matter of fact, it was said that Luka had actually had a negative exchange with Patrick Dumont shortly before his departure from Dallas. And the way that everything was done, doing it just behind Luka's back, just trading him in the middle of the night and everything, doing it savage like, I feel like Nico was put in a position to have to defend all this, to do his dirty work. And now, if he's going to be on the hot seat, there are multiple people in that organization that should be on the hot seat. Now, look, don't, without a doubt, you know what I'm saying, he's the face of all this. Of course, just like the, what's going on with the gambling shit, right? Listen, it's always got to be the black man that's the face of everything, the face of the bullshit, to do the dirty work, right? However, we know that Patrick Dumont did not have the best relationship with Luka. Now he criticized Luka, and he was saying that that the greats like Jordan, the greats like Shaq, the greats like Kobe, and a few others or whatever, their mindset was about winning. Luka's mindset was about winning. Now, could Luka have made the situation a lot better? Yes he could have. Okay, could have came in better shape. Okay, all right. He could have took care of his body a little better, and he could have focused more on the defensive end. We get all of that. However, we can't deny Luka's greatness because he was a five-time All NBA talent. Okay, and this was a guy, love it or hate it, he still was able to get your ass to the finals. Okay, y'all were just that much close to winning. Okay, he did a lot more than a lot of these other players have done in the short period of time that they've been in the league. Okay, now here's the thing that we got to understand, right? We could sit up here and we could say that Nico Harrison is on the hot seat and all this other stuff or whatever, but look at what's going on. Okay, Jason Kidd is not out to clear. Okay, Jason Kidd is not out of the clear by any means. Okay, and listen, you talking to a guy that fuck with Jason Kidd. Okay, Jason Kidd, man, one of the best point guards to ever do it. You know what I'm saying? One of the better coaches in the league right now. However, we know that everything hasn't been topsy-turvy this season and everything, and let's just call it what it is. He's made a few errors in terms of his coaching. One of the errors, of course, that everybody has put on blast and everybody has been vocal about is the way that he was using Cooper Flagg, man. Okay? Now, Cooper Flagg, man, he is not a point guard in many people's eyes. Yeah, he can handle the rock and, get up and down the court and all that other stuff, may be able to pass a little bit. We're talking about a natural point guard. When we think of a point guard, we think about what you were, Jason Kidd, and Cooper Flagg is not. That doesn't take away from what he is, because we've seen him in college. We've seen what he can do. Now, Jason Kidd does have a lot to do with this, okay? If you're going to put Nico Harrison on the hot seat, okay, we got to look in the direction of not only Jason Kidd, but we also got to look at Patrick Dumont as a part of this too, because he wanted Luka gone more than anybody. Okay, now also we could take it a step further, because Rob Pelinka is in this too. Y'all went ahead and you got AD out of there or whatever. AD clearly, was not, the same when he got to Dallas. Everybody expected AD to be this guy, but many people had tried to tell everybody that AD, you're just getting a guy who pretty much was going to, stay hurt all the time or whatever, and people try to actually compare AD and Luka's situation, saying that, well, Luka stayed hurt too, AD stayed hurt, but it wasn't the same, because Luka, while he was hurt a little bit every now and then and stuff like that, Luka still came on at the right time or whatever. Still has some things that he had to work on. So, for me to sit up here and say that Nico Harrison is the scam artist, and he got people to, he fooled the people or whatever, and now Dallas is has the worst win percentage, and actually they're saying that they had the worst win percentage in history. You know what I'm saying? I don't know how true that is, but we'll just have to go to the facts. Now everybody wants to point the finger at Nico Harrison. One minute it was Jason Kidd, he was on the hot seat. The next minute it was Nico Harrison, he's on the hot seat. Think about who's sitting up at the top. And Patrick Dumont has been vocal about not wanting Luka there. What part of that can we not see? Nico Harrison, man, look, I feel like he's just like the a token stamp, like somebody to sit up here and listen. I'm not sitting here saying that Nico Harrison is out of the clear 100%, because he did do some things. You know what I'm saying? He did make what I'm saying, some ill-advised decisions. You know what I'm saying? However, I gotta look in the other direction too. I gotta look at Patrick Dumars. He's the head of the snake, and he was the one that actually got into it with Luka. He did not have a good relationship with him, not at all. And Luka, would go up to the front office and say different things or whatever. We don't know what went on. You know what I'm saying? We're talking about, and we're even talking about a Luka Doncic who marched up in the front office and didn't even want um uh Jim Carrey as a coach. He didn't even want him as a coach. He didn't even want the previous coach. And everybody had pretty much went out of that front office, including Don Nelson Jr. Okay? So for us to sit up here and say that, okay, yeah, Nico Harrison, he wanted Luka gone and all this other stuff. No, it wasn't just Nico Harrison, man. It wasn't just Nico Harrison. And Nico Harrison, like I said, he's made some terrible decisions. We know the situation that happened with Steph Curry and everything, how he fumbled that with Steph Curry in terms of him being with Nike and everything like that. We know the situation that had taken place, and a lot of people said that he did some snakish things behind the scenes while he was working for Nike and everything. But we also got to look at the head of the snake too as well. I'm looking at Patrick Dumars, and I'm looking at some of the things that he had said or whatever, and it kind of sounds like Nico Harrison was regurgitating some of the stuff that Patrick Dumars has said, but Patrick Dumars didn't really want to come out and really face the people and everything. The only thing he said, he came out and he was like, "Oh yeah," gave a fake, heartfelt, since apology and everything. But now I know he's punching the air because he's like, "Well, man, nobody on my team is healthy. Kyrie, unhealthy. As much as we like Kyrie, let's just call it what it is. He got hurt, you know what I'm saying? And he's been known to be hurt. He's been known to be injury prone. Listen, I fought with Kyrie. Kyrie, sacrifices everything that he took, but Kyrie is injury prone. Okay? AD don't even need to say anything. Okay? He stay hurt. All right. Now it's looking like guys like Lively. He was hurt for a little bit now. Lively, I kind of hold back from the criticism of him because he actually played with the concussion. You understand what I mean? So, and then you have P.J. Washington hurt. Well, P.J. Washington was hurt at one time, and then Gafford was hurt, and just to name a few others. And also, I don't like the mishandling of Tim Hardaway Jr. at one point. Nobody talks about that situation. How Tim Hardaway Jr. was misused. Okay, the only ones that were really vocal about it was his father and Tim Hardaway Sr. So when we're talking about this whole Dallas Mavericks organization, man, we gotta look beneath the surface too. And then we all know that Dirk Nowitzki, who was an advisor in the Dallas front office, he didn't like what was going on at all. And that we know holds true. Because Dirk Nowitzki actually, he wanted Luka Doncic to stay there. But he's over in LA. There's nothing that we can do now. LA has one of the top seeded records in the league right now. Luka is leading the league in scoring. At one point, he was at what 44. Now I think he's at 41. 41 points per game, 9 rebounds, 11 assists or something like that. You know what I'm saying? Just on putting up MVP like numbers. And this is a guy who they criticize. And I know Patrick Dumont wanted Luka to fail. He wanted to say, okay, here, go ahead and take him. This guy is not going to be committed and all this other stuff. Well, guess what? He came back in shape. Now, I didn't like the fact that, you know what I'm saying, he took a couple of nights off and everything. I didn't like that. However, you know what I'm saying, he's made up for it being able to carry the load. Now, he wasn't able to carry the load without Austin Reeves against the Hawks and all that other stuff, but that's a different story for a different day. You know what I'm saying? It happens. But they still, nevertheless, are a team to be reckoned with, especially when they get Austin Reeves back. Nobody really talking about LeBron James, but I guess people are thinking that when LeBron James come back, they're going to be even that much more competitive. I beg to differ, but we'll have to see if that truly does take place. But like I said, man, this situation with Nico Harrison, it's all over the place. Jason Kidd, he has to take responsibility for what's going on this season or whatnot. You know, I know that there's only so much that he can do when you have a perennial all-star in AD who always stays hurt. Okay, this isn't what the Mavericks fans had desired. Okay, this isn't what they wanted. You know, they were supposed to get back to the finals the very next season. As a matter of fact, I was thinking to myself, I said, why would y'all make that trade, okay, when y'all just made the finals? You're supposed to take a step forward. And instead of them taking a step forward, they took 10 to 20 steps back. Okay, and not only that, you have to get Cooper Flag acclimated. Okay, is he going to learn? Do we got potential? Yes, he has potential, but it's still going to take some time. He doesn't know the NBA game yet. He just does not. Okay, he's got a lot of work to do. Now, can I see him being, an all-star, then potentially turning into a superstar one day? Maybe so. That just depends on how he works. What's up, Alex? That just depends on how hard that man works. Okay? But for us to sit up here and just say that, okay, yes, Nico Harrison's fault, he should be gone and all this other stuff, listen, maybe so. But it's not the only... Listen, Patrick Dumont was the one that really was criticizing and going in on Luka, talking about his weight, talking about his... And he don't have no room to talk about anybody. If he talk about somebody being lazy and all this other stuff, I mean, look, if you've seen Patrick Dumont, then you know what I'm talking about. Matter of fact, he's in a skirmish right now with the Dallas Stars. Okay, they're having a battle right now, financial wise. Now I don't know deep into that situation or whatever, but that's what I've been hearing. So at the end of the day, man, there's always going to be a fate. Just like with the whole, this whole gambling thing. Sometimes you got to sit back and you got to wonder, okay, who are these other 9 co-conspirators with the gambling? Not to jump off the subject, you know what I'm saying, but who are these other 9 co-conspirators in this indictment, that's going on with the whole gambling fiasco concerning Chauncey Billups, Terry Rozier, and Damon Jones? Who are these other guys that are behind the scenes? Who are these other, 30 some odd people that are involved that they're not mentioning, that they're kind of keeping hush-hush on and kind of sweeping up under the carpet? And that's what I'm saying about this situation. Nico Harrison, he happens to be a a black man. You know what I'm saying? And he's the one that's really been talking. If you notice, if you notice the owner, okay, Patrick Dumont, he really hasn't said that much. But Mark Cuban, in the past, Mark Cuban was very vocal about everything, you know. And Mark Cuban even said that he wouldn't have wanted Luka to go anywhere. He said that was like a dumb move, you know. And the people were protesting. These people were really serious about Luka. I mean, you had die-hard Luka fans. You still got die-hard Luka fans. You know what I'm saying? There and it was kind of like it was kind of a feel where there were Luka fans more than they were Dallas Mavericks fans. You know, so it's just like it just this situation right here, man. I'm not gonna put all on Nico Harrison because I feel like he's like a face just to take all the bullshit or whatever. And if he gets fired, man, oh man, we got to start looking elsewhere because see, let's say things don't go according to plan. Even if they do, get rid of Nico Harrison, you still got to listen. You still got to start back over. They still got to start from the ground up. And everybody's like, oh yeah, when Kyrie come back, they're gonna do much better, stuff like that. Kyrie still got to get his legs from up under him. We don't even know if Kyrie is still gonna look the same. We don't even know if this man is gonna be the same. Yeah, it might look good, in practice and what you see on IG and how he was in the past and all this other stuff, but we don't know how he's gonna be or whatever. And he still hasn't came back. Now it was rumored that he was gonna come back, in sometime in December or anything, but with an injury like that, man, we're talking about your ACL, if I'm not mistaken, man. Those are things that you really gotta pay attention to and you gotta watch out for because you could end up re-injuring. You actually could re-injure something else. You know what I'm saying? You could end up in a situation like what Clay is in. You know what I'm saying? And that's a whole nother subject right there. We've been talking about Clay. The Dallas Mavericks are trending all over the place. Like I said, 1 minute it's Jason Kidd. Next minute it's Klay Thompson. Then it's Nico Harrison. You know what I'm saying? Why aren't we talking about Patrick Dumont, who I feel is the true mastermind in all of this? He was the one that had the skirmish. He was the one that bumped heads with Luka Doncic. Luka was not, listen. I'll put it to you like this, man. Does he look like a basketball player in a lot of people's eyes? No, he does not. Okay? He doesn't look like a basketball player. Okay? Is he all cut up and chiseled and athletic and jump out of the gym? No. No. But can you see the passion in this guy's eye that he wants to win bad and hates to lose and gets frustrated at times? Yeah, you see that. You know what I'm saying? I think he's way more passionate than what AD is. And listen, everybody fuck with AD. You know what I'm saying? But AD, let's just call it what it is. Sometimes AD just doesn't seem like, he wants to be there. Like now Clay, he still has the passion. It's just that he's frustrated to be in the state that he's in. And that's a player that I want on my team, even though he might be injured or whatever. He cares about his craft. He cares about how he's playing. But you brought in a guy who clearly doesn't care, in my opinion. Yes, is he going to be a Hall of Famer? Yes, he is. Is he a perennial All-Star? Yes, he is. But we're talking about now. We're talking about this is the what have you done for me lately type of league, man. So I just think that Nico Harrison, man, listen, he's made a terrible decision and everything, but I don't think that it's all on him, because let's not forget it was him and Rob Pelinka that were talking behind the scenes, and Rob Pelinka and him have a good relationship as far friend wise, stuff like that. I mean, they've been knowing each other, for years and stuff. Come on, man. Rob Pelinka is in on this too, man. Now, of course, he benefited. It seemed like he benefited off of it. Now, you would have thought that everything was real bad, last season. You know what I'm saying? Because they were calling Rob. They were critical of Rob Pelinka and as well as JJ Redick and as well as LeBron James. Everybody, as they should have been. Because a lot of people didn't believe it or not. A lot of people didn't even want AD to leave LA. And there were some people that thought that this wasn't going to work out. Luka and LeBron, it wasn't going to work out. But a lot of people didn't see the um, the long term. And then, of course, when the owner from the LA Dodgers, he took over, was able to make his presence felt and everything like that. Now you're starting to see things come along and stuff. And you have the emergence of Austin Reeves, and made a move for DeAndre Ayton, who's starting to play a little bit, sort of like the Ayton that he was when he was in Phoenix. But like I said, man, Nico Harrison, we have to really go back and we have to ask ourselves, is he the scapegoat, or is he really the scam artist in this situation? Did he really scam the Dallas people into just becoming pretty much a laughingstock? And Dallas has expectations regardless of what people want to think. Yes. Has it been a minute since they won the championship? Yes. Yes, I think, 14 years? It's been a minute since they won the championship. However, that one championship is one more than most one more than most organizations that don't have a banner in their arena. So let that sink in. But I just wanted to speak my piece on that. Make sure y'all like, share, subscribe, hit them notifications too. Straight to the point. Shouts out to the whole entire LDBC. I'm gone.